trying to get better, and now finally we have Macintosh. But it took a lot of time to reach that point where we could use a computer and have it reliable. A lot of things really take a lot of time. It's like a video phone, right? It's been here for years, but people still don't use it because there is no usage for it. You don't necessarily want people to know where you are, and there is a lot of resistance to change. And innovation also is not well understood, I think. And this is one of the key points that one of the first things and the most important things you notice when you work with innovation is that innovation, every time we see something arrive, and especially journalists, I think, when you see an innovation arrive, you think it's going to replace everything. Like when DVD came up, people said it's going to kill cinema. When radio came up, people thought it's going to kill the record industry. And it actually never happens. Innovation always shuffles things around, but it never replaces things. And I think we don't really understand that, and it's very important. Also, the media tend to, I try to do a few things especially for you, and some of them are not very nice. But I think the media are really buzzing the wrong things, or really focusing on one thing and making it big and missing on the more other innovations. So 2006 was the year of blogs. So everywhere you could see blogs would kill the media. Of course, it didn't happen. 2007 was the Second Life year. So suddenly everybody would go virtual and be an avatar, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it did not happen. 2008 was the Facebook year. Facebook became pretty big, but still, now we start to notice that actually Facebook is not really socialization. It's more about broadcasting and really controlling your identity. 2009 is the Twitter year, so we hear a lot about Twitter. But I think it's kind of it's a bit wrong to always focus on the same things because they are easy to understand. And it's a bit wrong to say that this is going to be the next Google or whatever. There is not necessarily a need for that. And the fourth point is that innovation, and I always get the question from people because I run a conference that talks about the future. People ask me, what is the future? And I say, I don't know. Say, well, so you're a crook. No, I'm not a crook. Future is not the truth. Future is not something that is written in stone. Future is something that we all build together. You are actors of the future, as I am an actor. So future is really a discussion. And that's why when you go to, I think, you go to a good conference about the future, you come up with more questions than answers. Because really, you need to ask yourself the good questions to anticipate. And the problem with this co-evolution of society and innovation is that whether you like it or not, you cannot ignore it anymore. So again, as media people, you know what I'm talking about. You can ignore what's happening on the web, but then you're going to die. You have to do something. And whether you like it or not, you really have to cope with change. Think of Skype if you're a telecom company. If you think of Apple, who's been totally innovating and reinventing, creating new products, and at the moment everybody has very bad results. They have some good results. I mean, you really have to care about innovation, and to care about it, you have to anticipate it. And anticipate it is extremely hard because when you try to think about the future, you always make a certain number of mistakes. For example, we always overestimate the short term and we underestimate the long term. When you predict the future, you always put your own thoughts and your own angers into your predictions. For example, there is a very famous prediction that made in the 40s by one guy who was saying that we would all eat some little pills that would just give our body what we need and nobody would be fat anymore. And this guy actually was like 150 kilos. So he was kind of wishing that it would happen, but it did not happen. So you have to kind of take your personal thoughts out of your predictions, but you have to make some. I wanted to show you, because now I'm about to make my own predictions and give you some insights that I think are going to be true, but I want to really give you a warning about that. So there is a thing I really like to do, is to do paleofuturism. So you go back in time and you look at how people thought the future would be in our days. So this is 1910, some French drawings about the future of education in 2000. And so you have a professor putting books in some kind of machine and one guy, like working to do something with the books, and all the knowledge goes through his headsets straight into the students' minds. And we all know this did not happen. But again, predictions always tell you more about the time they were made than about the future. Another prediction that I like is the Visiophone. So of course, 1939, the next step was to see the person you're talking to. But of course, the guys who made this could not imagine that you wouldn't need a wire to connect your mobile phone to a huge terminal. And video conferencing happened, but not in that form. But it was hard to imagine by that at that time. This one is really cool. It's Apple video. Can I pause it? Yeah. So Apple in 1987 made a video of what Apple would be in 1997, 10 years later. And so they thought about the computer of the future. Here it is. So it gets very small. Wow. Good looking glasses. And look at the little detail. Up, the little floppy, right? So, I mean, okay, some of this is good. The computers are really getting smaller, and actually we have some displays. But they had to keep the floppy, because you could not imagine that maybe you would have wireless, you know? So always when we try to predict, we kind of make these mistakes. And really, nobody wants to look like that. This is another example of how, when you make a prediction, you actually put your own fears into it more than you think about the future. This is like clothing in 2000, imagined back in the 1950s. And basically, she's wearing some anti-radiation net, because of course, in 50 years, we're all going to be irradiated, and there's going to be nuclear wars everywhere. And why did that happen in 1950? Because Hiroshima and all the bombs were very recent in people's memories. So when they would imagine the future, they would use just the immediate past and try to extrapolate. And we know that, fortunately, it did not happen. So this was kind of the points I wanted to make about how innovation in society function, a lot of changes, society really reflecting on innovation now and actually driving it. Innovation happening a bit everywhere, not always having the same consequences. And it's really a discussion rather than something that is true. So then what I wanted to do is take a few examples and take you through different things, maybe to open up your mind and your thinking a bit. I'm not trying to be exhaustive. I'm going to talk about technical innovation, business innovations, and some social evolutions. So it's quite diverse. Let's talk about communicating objects. So Carlo just talked about that. So I'm going to try to be a bit quick. But you have currently, what's happening is that you have a set of technologies coming together. What Carlo's work is based on different technologies like wireless communication. So an object can communicate with a Wi-Fi network or with 3G network. Sensors, an object can know where it is. It can know the temperature. It can know the air pollution level. It's new interfaces, iPhone, like touch interfaces, but also the haptic interfaces like the Wii and the movement interfaces. So all these are really happening now, and they are deeply changing our relationship with other people and with the cities. Imagine these technologies in a urban context, which is, again, what Carlo talked about. We had one guy at Lyft in Asia who he was presenting a project of a social network of buildings. Like, why would you do that? And he was explaining that basically, for example, you could have a building in New York that has sensors about the current temperature. And you know that traditionally, the weather in New York is the weather in Boston 2 hours after. So what you could do is connect the buildings together, and that the building in New York tells the building in Boston, I just feel that the temperature is going down, prepare the heaters. And the building in Boston can prepare and anticipate on the weather, and you can have really interesting applications. Imagine self-organizing cars. So there is a project like that of cars who communicate with parking spots and say, I'm coming this way, please save the parking spots for me. And also the cars discussing together. I saw a project of, imagine that you take your iPhone and you go to a bus stop and you hold it like this, and basically on the screen, the computer is going to add information about the next buses that is going to fetch from the internet. So it's going to recognize the bus stop and draw some arrows saying towards this direction.